this would be Wednesday, November 19th, 6th period advanced class, because I already recorded the first period and posted it, because I'm recording both classes, because we'll have different kinds of arguments. And then we're going to get into our discussion of the end of the flowers for Algernon, and then we're going to get into our debate today. This is the bell work. For those of you who are playing the home game, you can also get it on the website, so you can go there to try and find the information. We're not going to be going over the answers today. We'll probably do that tomorrow or Friday. But we will give a chance for you guys to get your monkey treat for those of you who are wanting it. It just won't be today yet. Alright. Then, for the end of the flowers for Algernon, I wanted to go through and cover what happened with the stuff there. From where we left off yesterday was at the very end where, what is it that Charlie discovers happened to Algernon? He died. And why does Algernon die? His brain died. Because Algernon had the surgery, and as he went through it, what's the drawback to the surgery and getting super smart?
You die afterwards.
You also, apparently, you only have so much brainy-ishness, and if you get really smart, you use up your brainy-ishness from later in life, and so then it starts falling off, and it makes you become all grumpy and upset and sad, and the same thing happened to Algernon, and then Algernon dies off. So what does that imply about him?
He's going to be dying.
Same thing's going to happen to him, but he wants to at least try and do good things prior to that. So he does his little paper about how we're going to try and change the world. And he's like, maybe it's pointless because we're all going to end up dying, regardless of how much effort we put into it. Depressing stuff. Then, as it continues from there, what happens to, or what are your thoughts on what happens to Charlie after Algernon dies? After Algernon dies. He does get depressed. And why does he get depressed? Because and who's his friend?
Algernon.
Speaking of friends, he gets a job. And what job does Charlie get? The janitor job. Is he happy with his janitor job?
No.
Those are two different answers.
Yes, no, maybe so.
Well, we're talking about the end part of the story. That's where we are now.
Well, no, because he needs the money to pay his rent.
He does need the money because he's no longer getting paid by the laboratory. So he needs money so they don't kick him out. Apparently being homeless is sad. And he doesn't want to be homeless. So he decides that he's going to go back to work. But his worry was about how the other people would treat him. And how do his friends and other people treat him once he's back there?
His friends teach him.
His friends what?
When he gets eaten down by
Well, let's go back. When he goes back to work, is he smart or dumb? Dumb. We said before, when they treated him badly, it was because he was smart. And how'd that make them feel?
dumb.
Scared. And people don't like things that they're scared of. But now that he's dumb, were they scared of him?
No.
So what were their thoughts about him coming back?
Yay.
Yeah, they had no problem with it. He even gets bullied by a new guy that's there. What happens when the new guy tries to bully him and be mean to him?
His friends are like, no, back out.
And, oh, now you guys use the word friends. Nicely done. And so his co-workers, who you guys are like, they're not his real friends, they're haters. Now all of a sudden, like, his friends stood up for him. So, yes, those people who you said were haters yesterday are now apparently his friends, and they stand up for him. They're like, you can't do that to Charlie, he's our man, you know. And they, or however it went. And they stand up for Charlie, and there's bonding and good stuff from that. And then at the end, what is it Charlie decides to do?
Go to New York.
Go off, and why does he want to go to New York? Because he wants to leave everyone behind, because he knows it's going to be sad, and the fact he's like, you saw me at my highest and best point. You don't want to see what I'm becoming, because that's where he gets embarrassed, and he shows back up in Miss Kennyon's class, and where he forgot that he was not supposed to be there, and it makes him feel all grumpy and sad at the same time. Then, at the very end, we find out why the story is called what it is. Why is the story called what it is? You're on the right track. Victor?
Because he writes a letter, and in his reports he says put flowers on Algernon's grave.
And when he's talking about putting flowers on Algernon's grave, that's actually a metaphor for what he's having them do. He's not actually wanting them to put flowers on Algernon's grave. Now he wants them to physically put flowers on Algernon's grave, but it's supposed to mean something else when they're putting flowers on Algernon's grave.
Pay respect.
Uh-huh.
Pay your respects to him.
To who?
Algernon.
No.
No.
Charlie.
To Charlie. Because what's going to happen to Charlie?
He's gonna die.
And so this is his way of saying, say goodbye to me because I'm leaving. So when he says put the flowers on Algernon's grave, is his way of saying you're putting flowers on, nicely done, on my grave. Because you won't have a grave for me because I'm going to disappear. So the idea of when you need to say goodbye to me and you need to move on, you'll go out there to Algernon's little spot and you'll put flowers out there and you'll get a chance to say goodbye to me that way. So it's sort of like that metaphor for the fact that I'm dying and moving on and this is my way of saying goodbye. So it's that sad little bit there at the very end. Which brings us to our argument for today. What we're going to get into with today's discussion is the idea of genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is the idea of manipulating how our human body is through science. As we go through into it, you're going to have to pick either a for or against stance. Either I'm all for it or I'm all against it. The whole thing all together. With how we're moving. This story was written 50 years ago. Actually 50 years ago next year. And so back then, this whole thing was just make-believe sciencey stuff, and now we can actually do it. And so with this being on the cusp of stuff that we get to actually do, we have to decide whether morally we should do it. Is this something that we should choose to do, or something we should choose not to do? So as we go through and do the discussion, you're going to tell me whether you are for or against it. My goal is I'm going to be spreading around the talking as best I can. Some of you like to talk a lot, and you're going to be raising your hands a lot, which is absolutely fine. My goal, though, is if you do that and raise your hand a lot, that person who hardly ever talks, as soon as they raise their hands, they get to cut in front of everyone. So they don't have to wait. Whereas if it's like a fewer number of you that are arguing back and forth, that's fine. But it means I'm going to be jumping around to as many different people as possible, which is why that paper is going to come in handy, because you might have to be arguing back with a point that was made 5, 6, 8, 10 people ago. So you're going to write down, well, when, and you're going to tell us who said what and what you're going to be arguing with, and fun stuff like that. To introduce the ideas for you guys today, what genetic engineering is. Genetic engineering is going in there and changing how stuff works. We already do genetic engineering. We do it with plants and animals all the time. Our argument today is whether we should do it with humans. We do it with plants to make them stronger and hardier so they don't die off. Because if we want to be able to plant corn up north in Canada, and so we can make use of that area and have it so that the cold weather doesn't kill it, you can genetically modify it and splice that corn with other kinds of corn species to make it so that it will last longer. We have corn and rice and wheat that we can grow out in Africa. Because out there's this stuff called sun and no water and things die a lot. And so they can make it so the plants are much more hardy. That happens through genetic manipulation. Through genetic engineering, we create plants that can live out there so that we can give those people food so that they don't die. That's stuff that we're already doing. With animals, we do it little bits and pieces. They've talked about cloning already, and the fact that they've already cloned animals. They've cloned sheep, they've cloned cats, they've cloned dogs. Now the drawback is they don't always live real long because of the fact that we're not real good at it yet, but we can do it. And they live and they get to be a couple years old, and the fact is they have like genetic defects because, blame God, apparently not supposed to be real good at that. So we're still practicing, and so they only live to be a couple years old, and then they fall over and die. But practice makes perfect. And so we can do little things like that. You want to have fun, you can look up, Google the phrase glow-in-the-dark cats. Have you ever seen the underwater fish that can glow in the water? They can see the little phosphorescent. They've taken out those cells and implanted them into little kitty embryos when they're still in the mama kitty, and the cats are born being able to glow in the dark. Right now, no. And so the reason they do that is, I have no idea. Science! Just to sort of see the idea that they can combine these two different things that are out there. Down the line, it's probably the idea that you can combine it with sheep, and you would have sheep that can glow in the dark, and that way you wouldn't lose your sheep like out on the fields or something like that. And you could have sheep that have wool that you could make glow in the dark wool, but whatever. Science! They're in the process of doing it. They can manipulate and do this stuff already. So that's the genetic engineering we already have. The idea of genetic engineering is going in there and either messing with something prior to it being born. So a lot of our argument today is we're messing around with babies when they're still in utero, meaning when the baby is still inside the mommy doing the growy thing. We can go in there and do science to change how that baby will be born. And so we're going to talk about what we can do to change and help out that baby. There's other forms of genetic engineering where we can go in there and change things after you're born, but that's not so much genetic engineering as much as just modification, as much as going in there and trying to fix mistakes. There's two different kinds of genetic engineering, positive and negative. Negative means you take something away. Positive means you add something in. So negative engineering would be the idea where diabetes. Diabetes happens because people are born with insufficient amounts of insulin in their body. And so what we can do is with the negative engineering, we can take out those genes that would make you be born diabetic. While a baby is still in belly, they can do the little pokey science thing and pull out those bad genes, and now the baby's not born with diabetes. So you can pull out whatever it is. Positive engineering is where we can add stuff in. Nick Vujicic, the guy that did the talking without the arms and the legs, we can genetically engineer that now and fix that. Where if you were to find out ahead of time that a baby was going to be born without arms and legs, we could fix that. And we could add in the things, the little genes that would make the arms and legs grow, and that way you would have to be born normal with arms and legs. That's the idea of positive engineering, where you can add things in. Now, of course, you could go further than that, and in theory, you could possibly engineer it so instead of having 10 fingers, you have 12 fingers, and that would give you an extra finger on the hand. Mr. Brovicast, why would you want that? Play basketball, extra finger, grab a ball. If you're a pianist and you would be able to have the extra finger to play the piano, if you were a flautist and you wanted to have that extra finger, and so all of a sudden, having an extra finger that you were created to have has that extra idea. You can be genetically modified to be taller, to be stronger, to be smarter, to be faster, to have extra arms. Any of the things that you can throw in there, you can genetically modify and change the body. So what we're going to do today is, in a moment, we're going to take a vote to see whether you are for or against this. Now, the drawback is right now, you have to be for all of it, meaning we're going to open the door and say we're just going to let it all happen, or you're against all of it, saying is that we're going to close the door and none of this should be allowed. But Mr. Brovicast, I'm sitting on the fence. I think they're both good and bad. Yep, you're a wussy. So you're going to have to pick one side or the other. Now, I agree that there are goods and bads to it. But unfortunately, as far as the law is going to go, it's going to say we have to pick one or the other. So, here's where we do the voting, and then we'll get a chance to start doing the discussing. So those of you who say, I am for this, and I completely support it in all of its different forms, raise your hands. We have an idea. And when you raise your hand, be proud, raise your hand high. Those of you who say, I'm against this, and think it is evil and should be stopped. And as we go through, if you change your mind, that's absolutely fine. And that's what's going to happen as different points come be brought up. My job is to what's called being a devil's advocate. I'm going to argue both sides. So whatever you bring up, I will bring up a counter-argument for it, regardless of which side you're on. I'm not attacking you. I'm just attacking your argument. So don't take it personally. I'm just trying to help you find the right things. And I'll probably manipulate and abuse your words and make you look silly. But that's just to make you a better person, so it's okay. The first one, since it connects to our story, and we'll get into, as we go through, I'm going to be jumping from one topic to the next, so I'm going to be limiting you how long you can talk. You're only going to get like 20, 25 seconds to talk, and then we're going to jump to the next person, just to give you an idea. So when I cut you off, don't get angry at me, it's just because I can't let you babble forever. But the first one, the idea of brain surgery to enhance a person's IQ. Safe, effective, permanently double or triple IQ. Is this something we should do or not do, is the first idea that's out there. Do you guys support it or not support it? Or just want to stare at me? Tori!
I think no, because if everyone has like the same or similar like IQs, no one can learn.
No, well, one, to counter that, not saying everyone has the same or similar. We're just saying that you take whatever you have and you would make it, if you wanted to have the surgery, you'd be able to double or triple it. So you would still, I mean, if we take every number times 3, that doesn't make every number the same. It just makes every number 3 times bigger.
Oh, never mind.
So we're good then? So Tori's on my side. All right. Yes.
I say that it should be because it takes less time, probably, and
Less time. Surgeries?
yes, than something years of school.
Okay.
Yes, and it
Now you
makes
still have to go to school. We're just making you have the ability to be smarter.
Well, if you aren't smart after you get out of school, then you can go ahead and enhance it,
Okay.
and people don't have to listen to annoying teachers.
So you're saying we should do it because it's good to be lazy. So you want smart, lazy people. Okay. Patella.
Okay, so in equal proportion,
if normally, if a person, if like there's a range of how smart people are, and then all those people, like there are 3 people and they're different ranges, all 3 get a surgery, then it's practically the same thing, because the smartest is going to stay the smartest, so what's the point?
Because the fact that smart person can then, as with Charlie does in the story, he goes out and then solves science problems, and goes out there and tries to further the world, and tries to solve world hunger. Because apparently, if the world's full of dumb people, they probably can't solve world hunger. But if the world's full of smart people, we can start solving some of those problems. Just put that out there. Jackson.
Well, like saving world hunger, but like saving people's lives, like curing cancer and stuff. If you had smarter people, they would be able to find cures for it.
So smarter's good.
Yeah.
Then what if it's only the rich people who can afford it?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's going to cost money to have this happen, so pretty much it's just going to be the smart people who can afford to have this done to their babies. You okay with that?
Still more than nothing.
I agree. I'm just making sure that we're on the same page. Clark.
Well, like how in the story, he wasn't even smart for like more than a month, and then he started.
Well, we're saying now it's safe and effective. We're not going to have that regression part. We fixed it.
Then he became a genius, but he got lonely because he couldn't exactly talk to people. If only the rich people are allowed to do it. There's less than half of people that are rich than there are of people not. So
Much smaller than that, but yes.
Yeah, but so they would be like kind of lonelier because it's not.
So we shouldn't have smart people because they might be lonely.
No, you can have. There's people that are smart, but they should work at it. They should have to learn to work hard to get smart, and not just be able to be like, oh, I'm not very smart right now. Let's just go have Mom, let's go have a surgery. Make me a genius.
So you're afraid all smart people are going to be lazy?
Pretty much.
Okay.
So kind of what Charlie said, but if somebody like got smarter and everybody got like the same amount smarter, then it would never end because they would just want to keep getting smarter because they'd still be like at the same level they were when they started.
Isn't that a good thing? If everyone keeps getting smarter, we keep solving more problems. Isn't having everyone become...
They'll still want to like learn more and stuff. They'll never end.
So you're saying wanting to learn is bad?
No.
That they're greedy because they just want to keep getting smarter, and it's wrong to want to be smarter.
No.
Jan?
Like terrorists and other people could get smarter too and like overtake like governments and things. And even though like scientists could find out nice things, but there's always the risk of terrorists and bad people and like criminals getting smarter too.
We're actually going to come back to that here in a moment, but the idea of being able to genetically engineer people who make poor choices. But your idea is we should not do any kind of technology because a bad person might get a hold of it. So we should not have cars, or planes, or food. They can poison the food. What happens if people poison our food? So we should not have food. Or air, because there's biological evidence that you should not have air. I mean, so it gives you like, what, you should live in a box. It is.
A box still has air.
Crazy people, they live out in the fields. My next thing I want to introduce is the idea of life-threatening surgical procedures. The idea of organ transplants, mending bones, lost limbs. We find out in utero, once again, while the baby's still in there, that your baby's going to be born without legs, or your baby's going to be born with cancer, or your baby's going to be born with malfunctioning kidneys. That we can go in there and use the genetic alteration to fix this before they're born. Is this something we should be allowed to do? Because a lot of you guys said, no, let the baby die. Those of you who said that you're against this, that was your vote, is that we find out that we can fix it, and your thought is, nope, let my baby die. I'm against that. So I'm just trying to make that is where the stand you took. If not, prove me wrong, because as of now, that's what I'm hearing from you. Laura?
I'm saying no because there's too much of a risk. Because you cannot like completely change a person if they're like gonna be gone with one arm, and they're gonna completely. If you're gonna change that, then there's got to be something that's gonna go wrong. So
you're with Yana because bad things might happen.
No, maybe because what if the consequence is worse than having like a loss than what it was actually gonna be like?
What if after the baby's born, the surgeon might drop it? So we probably shouldn't have babies at all. I mean, what if? What if you could drop a baby?
Stop having an imagination right now. Be serious.
You're the one that said what if. You entered the what if game.
No, because usually if you're gonna completely change something,
Change
then it's
something
not
bad
all-
about how baby's dying. So you're okay with
not
baby death.
everything is gonna be positive.
Okay.
So there's always gonna be something that's gonna go wrong. It
Uh-huh.
may not be that bad, but it may be really bad. It depends on who's doing the surgery and how much
Probably a smart
experience
person
they
that
have.
had the smart surgery.
It's been
Usually,
45 seconds.
they
That's a
could
good
be
point.
in
We'll move on from there. Good job. Braden.
Oh, I have to disagree with her because I think the chances of like surviving the surgery are bigger than like surviving whatever the baby will have.
I would
So I
hope
think
that
it-
when they
I
do
th-
this that you'd have a
like
good chance.
Like I think it's worth the risk because you can probably still survive and probably more likely have a chance.
So it's okay to save the baby. Baby saver.
Yeah.
Even if they drop the baby. Hannon.
I think that you should do it because it's kind of like what Emily said, but mine makes sense. If there was a baby that didn't have an arm and it's a life-threatening surgery, they could die in the surgery, but they could live without the arm.
No, not a life-threatening surgery. As in life-threatening, as in we're saving your life. As in these are
Oh.
things that will kill you if we don't do it.
Then
Why don't
never
you
mind.
put life-saving?
Oh.
I'm sorry. Life-saving surgical procedures. I apologize. As in we're trying to save them. I apologize for your argument. Yeah. So it's like a life-threatening issue that we're trying to save you from. Not that we're doing a life-threatening surgical. I apologize. So now you're for it? So now no more baby dropping?
I'm still against
Okay,
it.
never mind. You're back to dropping babies. I apologize. Yes.
Well, okay, so if you're in a life-threatening situation, let's say you were over in Iraq and you, lost a limb, right? So you have to have a surgery to either get the leg back because you only have 4 pints of blood in your body.
Mhm.
And if you lose, half or more of that, you're more likely to die than to live. So the surgery is to save your life. And if you go, if that didn't happen, if you had to have, a neurosurgery or something, and we're already changing everything in the body, we're already able to go in and do those surgeries and replace things, why not add to it and do the brain surgeries?
So you're saying we're already altering things, it's just one more small little thing?
Yes.
So to go along with that, let's say with the life-threatening surgical procedures, we have the idea of a baby that could be born without a kidney, and we want to go in there and save it, and they tell the parents, hey, we can save the kid, do that. And another parent comes in and is like, listen, I'm white, and I married someone that's not white, and I'm afraid that with our mixed-race baby, the baby could be one race or the other, and I'm afraid if that baby grows up with one race or the other, that could be life-threatening because they could get beat up a lot. And I don't want my baby to get beat up because that'd be life-threatening, they could be suicidal, so in that case, I want to pick the race. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Wait,
It's
is that
physically
surgery?
impossible.
No, with the genetic engineering, you can pick the race of your baby.
It depends on the
And so if you were mixed race, white, and say Native American, and you're afraid I don't want to have a Native American baby because they're going to get picked on or have some racist comments, I want to have my baby come out to be white, and I want to take out the Native American part of him with our baby. You could do that, and you could declare that that would be life-saving. Would that be okay?
Yes.
They're saying, I don't want my child to be suicidal growing up, and so they're saying this is life-saving.
You're allowed to have your own opinions.
Just checking. Mia.
So can you have white and African American together though?
Yeah, that's what we have now. Genetic engineering means you can fix that.
Why would they get bullied for that though?
What's that?
Why would they get bullied for that?
People get bullied. It's racism. It's this thing. It's coming around. Now, it doesn't make it right, but it happens. That's what scares people off. Crispin.
I think it's wrong because at the rate human evolution is at, the current thing is we're going to eventually have no race because of globalization and stuff. So why mess with human evolution? Why?
So you're saying we should just go ahead and not be able to fix people at all?
No, I'm saying let human nature take its course.
So let the weak babies die. That's human evolution. To go on with what you're saying, human evolution says the weak die and the strong get stronger. So we're going to let the weak babies die and the strong babies live.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's evolution. Look.
If you have the life or the life-saving surgery, then why would someone want to triple their IQ because they already have solved the problem?
Because that's the only problem we have?
Well, you're saying solve cancer or like find a cure for cancer and stuff, but if you can like already cure that, like, yeah.
So you're saying, why do we need, well, maybe this only happens because of that. Maybe we can only solve those things because we have those people who got really smart and figured out how to solve that last little bit and solve the puzzle for us. So because you let us do that, we now save babies. We're saving babies. Think about how important that, Schumacher.
Well, with the genetic engineering, I don't think that it's right because, like, let nature run its course, like you were saying, because, like, back then when they didn't have this stuff, they couldn't fix those problems and people just had to deal with them. So that's basically saying that we can't deal with this problem that we have.
So you're saying we should not have those surgeries, we should learn to deal with our own problems.
Yeah, because we just, like...
I understand. Have you ever had a headache?
Yeah.
What do you do when you have a headache? Good. Is there any way to make the headache go away faster? Anything we can do?
Advil.
Oh, do you take Advil? Does that affect your body? Does that change? Should we not just have to deal with the headache? Why would we go in there and change that headache if that's the headache that we're given? And you're going in there and that's not how they used to handle this. They used to have to just to tough it out, but you're saying, I'm going to use medicine to change it. What's the difference between using medicine to change things?
That's because it's like a bigger decision.
So, because it's a bigger decision, it's a wrong one? I mean, have you ever bought a pencil? Do you think you're ever going to buy a car? Should we not buy a car because it's bigger than a pencil? Just going with your thinking on that one. Another thing I want to bring up, because this is one that has sparked ideas, is the idea of a criminal lobotomy. The idea that we can go into, as of right now, they have figured out genetic imprinting to figure out things in our bodies, in our brain waves, that make people naturally violent. That make them so you are more likely, they can go ahead and do a brain scan now and find out, even as a young child, whether you are more likely to commit a crime, whether you are more likely to be violent when you get older. And they found out there's parts of your brain that violent people have that non-violent people don't have. It's just part of your brain that's in there. So the idea is, can we go into the brain while they're still a baby, if they do a brain scan, and say, your baby's going to have this thing inside of them. Now, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be violent, but it's saying that every violent person that's ever existed has had this gene in them. So if there's a good chance of it, can we go in there and remove this while they're still a baby? Or, after they've committed the crime, can we go in there and say, remove this from them at that point? And say, remove this part of your brain that gives you this thing that makes you violent. Brady.
I think it's a good idea because you can there would be less violence and stuff and you could cure it. And
And so we can go, so the idea of going in there and pulling that stuff out should be a good idea to tamper with what's inside the brain, even if the baby doesn't have a choice, if it's the parents making the decision. Jackson?
Well, how you said, like, the parents making the choice, the parents can make the choice with whatever they want, and if I were a parent, I would love to have that taken out of them. It would make your life easier, and it would make their life easier, because they wouldn't be as violent, so it would help them.
And so the idea of now, what if we can go in there and take out other little bit stuff too, like things that are going to make them short, and we can make sure they're tall.
That'd be just as good.
You'd be good with that too? Saying like we can take out things like brown eyes, and make sure they have blue eyes.
I don't understand how that would be bad, but I'm sure.
I mean, while you're in there, there's like these little, it's like
Yeah.
role-playing with a character on a game, and you can choose the different things that go into it. You could pick out that stuff.
Yeah.
Just checking. Patella.
Okay, so as you said, that it costs lots of money,
Uh-huh.
but like not everybody's rich.
True.
So,
Just the rich will be doing it for a long time.
but then I would go against it because like